Hello everyone, my name is Loko and welcome back to another StarCraft video. Now today it is time for a professional match and this time around we are on Blue Shift LE. Spawning here in the northeast corner of the map, I'm playing with the red Protoss probes. He's from Germany, his nickname is Die Mauer. Of course we are currently looking inside of the main base of ShoWTimE. And his opponent spawning in the opposite corner of the map in the southwest position, playing with the blue Zerg drones. We have the Mexican Zerg who goes by the name of Cham. Now, because I was curious, I quickly just went on Aligulek, basically a statistics website that keeps track of all of the recent online and offline events in SC2 and then ranks all of the pro gamers according to each other, depending on how well they did against the different opponents. And statistically speaking, Cham, while he is the current rank 2 player from Mexico, the rank 1 obviously being special, the difference between him and special is actually surprisingly small. I think a lot of people are very familiar with Special. He used to go by the nickname of Major for many years and like 20 other nicknames as well, although recently he's been going by the name of Special. There's no denying though that Cham has really been closing that gap quite a bit, and I figured it's about time we look at more of his matches. Now, what really surprised me, and not to say that ShoWTimE is a weak player, no, he's one of the strongest players that have ever really touched the Protoss pieces, but statistically speaking, get this. This German Protoss is the current rank 1 Protoss on the planet, and he has been for a little while already. Now, obviously, it's purely statistics. It's hard to say how he would actually rank up against someone like Zest, or Classic, or Stats, or SOS, or Neep, or Trap, or Hero, or Deer. I mean, there's tons of great Protoss players out there, but there's no denying that ShoWTimE is amongst the very best. Now, his nickname is Die Mauer. I think I pointed that out. Die Mauer basically means the wall, for those of you unfamiliar. Apparently, when you play against ShoWTimE, it kind of feels like you're throwing units at a wall, because he basically will be able to defend everything you will bring to his side of the map, and that's kind of his specialty. He plays a very efficient style, and yes, German efficiency, pun intended. But there's no denying it's extremely effective, and he's very good at what he does. The funny thing is, a lot of the players from Germany, for example, Lambo, or for example, Hero Marine, that's actually all 3 races, but they all play this very efficient, very textbook StarCraft 2 style. Most of them will not really go for a lot of cheeses. They will instead be focused on defending whatever their opponent wants to throw at them, and then eventually overwhelm them with sheer amounts of stuff. So, if you're looking to learn how to play Protoss, I think you want to have a look at, for example, ShoWTimE's games. That does mean, of course, that against a Zerg opponent, he's going to open up with that Stargate. Stargate, very common in this matchup. Rather than going for a Phoenix first, though, he does decide to go for a... and actually 2 Adepts here as well, chrono boosted out. But he does decide to go for an Oracle instead. And actually, a couple of these Adepts will be able to get some kills as well. Nice little bit of damage already. Obviously, most of those kills are going to be Zerglings. But Adepts in the early game can deal a tremendous amount of damage. And this is kind of what he does, right? You will be able to get him out of there while also keeping both of those units alive. So not only did ShoWTimE get the scouting information that he wanted, he saw the 3rd base, he counted the amount of drones, he got some kills, some Zerglings, and he got all of the units out of there. And this is the kind of stuff that he does. I think on paper, ShoWTimE is gonna be the one who's heavily favored in this kind of scenario, just because he's very good and just hard to beat. But we'll see what Cham has got in store for us. He has impressed me quite a bit over the last couple of months in the games that I've seen, so I'm curious to see how he's gonna bring this one out. Now, great defense there. Only a single drone will go down. 2 Queens were waiting, as well as that Spore. That's gonna be more than enough to shoo away that Oracle, and of course, it escapes with just a couple of hit points intact. Now, that's actually a really quick Roach Warren, all things considered here for Cham. He's still making a couple of drones, but that was like a 330, no, a little bit later. I think like a 345 or so Roach Warren. Usually, that's not something you take that early defensively. Usually, if you take it that early, you're gonna, at the very least, plan on using it on the offense as well. So I'm curious to see where he's gonna take this. Now, maybe he got a bit of a read off of his opponent. Maybe, obviously, there were some mind games at play as well. Normally, though, if there were gonna be Archon drops as a follow-up, which is the most common follow-up, This time around, it's double Stargate, but normally the Archons would arrive in about 30 seconds from now. So these roaches would be timed a little bit too early. So I'm curious to see if he's going to use them offensively right now instead. Now, double Phoenix openers. This is probably my favorite opener right now in Zerg versus Protoss for Protoss. I think double Stargate is very, very good. It sort of forces Zerg. Ooh, the March of the Queens. I was gonna say it sort of forces Queen or Zerg to go for Hydralisk, but I guess Queens are just fine as well if you can march them across. At this point, ShoWTimE has absolutely no idea about this, and obviously, while you will figure it out right now, this can deal a tremendous amount of damage. In particular, ooh, if he loses that Oracle. Alrighty, so the reinforcements right now are gonna be a couple more roaches, but I think from here on out, mostly Zerglings, while the gas is spent on additional Ravagers. 3 of those shieldy boys are going down near the front. We see a stasis ward also being constructed here by the Oracle, but the Zerg aggression has begun. Cham wants to close out this game right here, right now. Third Nexus was not yet acquired here for ShoWTimE, so good timing there by him. If he would have already gotten it, obviously that would have hurt quite a bit, or maybe he cancelled it. But regardless, there's a lot of potential here in this push. Now, the Queens are immediately lifted up. That does mean that Corrosive Biles can land on some of those Phoenixes, and there we go. It will go down. Now, also, obviously, we saw the Cybernetics core being picked off. That means no more Warpins right here, or for example, Adepts, and also no Stalkers and Sentries. Zealots alone right now. Now, the Phoenixes, though, they are dealing the damage, guys. The Phoenixes are picking up a lot of those really valuable units, and ShoWTimE is making the best of a very bad situation. Probes are finally starting to fall, but the defenses honestly have been really, really good. Sure, he lost some economy. Sure, he lost some units, but the majority of the Phoenixes is still alive, and more importantly, the vast majority of these probes are still alive as well. I think this is actually, like, this is why people call him the Wall, okay? Like, look, he wasn't prepared for that aggression. He made the best of it. Right now, a couple probes are finally going down, but the vast majority of that aggression was defended with minimal amounts of losses. Now, this is really good for Cham. This is what he came here to do. When you think about it, when Zerg goes for a push like this, they need to deal a certain amount of damage, right? And initially, the damage really wasn't particularly amazing. Right now, though, ooh, this is starting to hurt really badly here. The Phoenixes are out of energy. You don't really want to spend the energy either on, like, lifting up Zerglings, right? So that means that the Zealots and the Probes are gonna be needed here to fight. So, alright, here I am, complimenting ShoWTimE on his magnificent defense right before he loses 25 or so Probes. You know, he lost a couple initially and then, like, 25 more. That's a lot. Look at the work account right now. 44 drones remain after these Phoenixes are going to town. Now, obviously, Phoenixes are very good. Couple of rally drones. They will not be picked up. Instead, he's going to go after the drones that are mining gas. We see a Spire coming here as well as additional spores. ShoWTimE is indirectly dealing damage here though, right? Because he's forcing a lot of those spore colors out. 7 drones end up going down there, and obviously a lot of those spores also were forced to be constructed. That's not going to make it very easy. This is actually going to be quite a lot of Phoenix trouble though, because he doesn't really have a lot to defend his bases just yet. Now, I think eventually Cham is likely going to transition here towards... Ooh, he's trying to get more drones. Nicely done. I think eventually we are going to be seeing that transition right now towards Spire tech. And then obviously mostly Corruptors. But if there's a lot of Corruptors... And man, the damage here is insane though. Making the best of this scenario, 15 drones end up going down there. That's really nice. Well, in total, obviously. A couple of them went down to the Adepts earlier, but... Still, obviously when you see Corruptors coming out, you can always transition to watch, for example, Void Rays as well, and they're going to be excellent in this regard. ShoWTimE has been building up his economy though. Once again, trying to get as many workers as he can on the bases that he's got. And finally, he does decide to go up towards a third Nexus here too. But look at this, right? The efficiency, man. It's just the German blood that he's got, I guess. Look at the amount of damage he's dealing with these Phoenixes. Oh, man. He barely had any economy remaining just a couple of minutes ago. All he had was Phoenixes and a dream. He's dealing so... This is why I love this opener, though. I think it's so strong. I really do think it's one of the best ones. So he lost 4 Phoenixes so far, but look at the amount of losses here on the end of the Zerg. And look at the supply count right now as well. ShoWTimE absolutely demolishing him in supply. But the thing is, once there's a lot of these Corruptors out, the Phoenixes can almost, like, be thrown away. Phoenixes don't really achieve very much anymore once there are this many Corruptors out. He's instead, though, gonna still stick around on that Phoenix style. Obviously, the Oracles are still available as well, so they can be used here in a little bit too. But yeah, he's gonna go for that mass Stargate army right now, researching the +1 flyer weapon upgrade, as well as transitioning towards Void Race. We see the +1 flyer weapon here coming up as well for our Zerg player. More drones, though, will be picked up. And actually, you know what? While Cham killed 28, all things considered, ShoWTimE is still in a really good spot, and he's once more gonna continue the harassment for a little while longer. And the thing about this kind of push is that it's all been relatively low commitment. ShoWTimE, at none of these points, after I guess the initial bit of aggression, has he really taken a massive hit. It's all calculated damage, and he hasn't like been overlifting units either, right? He hasn't really been overdoing it necessarily either. Anyways, now all of a sudden we have arrived at 3 base versus 3 base play. We see the Forge coming up. Twilight Council here finally as well. Forge obviously very late. Second robotic facility will also be acquired. Looks like more drones, by the way, ended up going down. But the Forge is very late here, right? Normally you don't really see this going down this late unless Protoss was in a lot of trouble. And obviously late Forge upgrades usually does mean that the later stages of the game are gonna be rough. +1 is gonna be done here for Cham right around the same time as +1 starts here for ShoWTimE. So that's going to be a rough one for him to transition to. Likewise, Twilight Council is also much later than you want it to. Charge will be produced. The question is he going to go for... oh, actually, hold that thought. Apparently, the Oracles have arrived, or rather, the Corruptors have arrived. They're going to try and deal whatever damage they can. One of those Void Rays was immediately picked off. I think a second one actually may have died there as well. Yeah, 2 in total so far. Well, obviously, it has been able to keep track of where these Corruptors go using Revelation. The Corruptors can't really kill a lot of units very easily. So all you really need is a couple of Stalkers on the ground to shoot them away, and Revelation to keep them at bay as well. But still, these Phoenixes have to be where these Corruptors are not. Anyways, I'm curious if he's going to transition right now towards... There we go. Finally, Storm as well. I think eventually you do want to get yourself Archons as well as Storm and all that out. I think it's very useful. But the Phoenixes apparently have found a bit of an opener. They're going to have to be careful though, because obviously these Corruptors are smelling blood. But at some point you just sort of have to take the risk as well. You don't want to throw away these Phoenixes for free, but you don't really want to have them in your maxed out unit composition necessarily either, right? And the damage, man, it continues. This really has been Phoenix problems. The Phoenix problems here are ridiculous. The amount of damage that they've done, I wish I could show you a statistic of exactly how much damage they've done. But look at that, 43 drones. Now sure, like 10 of those went down to a couple of depths, right? But still, man, that's insane. And that's the thing about double Stargate opener. Not only does it transition towards the late game really nicely if you already have that second Stargate out. The one Void Ray. It's almost always guaranteed to deal at least a little bit of damage. Love it. Big fan of this kind of style. Storm is coming up. Now, let's see what Cham exactly has in store for us. Look, he did get himself that 4th base up and running, and he is mining 8 gas. He's now also transitioning towards the Lurker Den, and +2 missile is just about to finish. He can actually morph in quite a lot of Lurkers here with ease, and there's really not a lot available here, other than obviously once again the Phoenixes, which in turn should be counted by the Corruptors, to lift them up. And with the Phoenix count finally dwindling here, I think there is a lot of potential for Cham to potentially do a push right here with Hydras, Corruptors, and of course, those Lurkers. I kind of want him to go right now, to be honest. I think right now is a good time. There we go. 12 Lurkers are being morphed in. Normally, you wouldn't imagine that... Lurkers are going to be a good counter against Phoenixes, right? Because A, they don't shoot up, and B, they can easily be killed by Phoenixes. But I think in this case, it might be good. Now, already though, ShoWTimE is preparing for that. He's got a lot of these Immortals. He also does have Storm right now done. It all comes down to the engagement, honestly. It all comes down to the angle. Cham knows that there's Revelation on his Corruptor, so he's trying to sort of lead this Protoss army away from the 3rd. Look at ShoWTimE, though. already cycling towards that, not falling for this Zerg trick. But here we go. Well, I say not falling for that trick. All of those lurkers get burrowed in a very powerful position, and that means Cham is all of a sudden here with a maxed out army. Now keep in mind, his economy is not very strong on the back of this. Protoss is focused primarily on air units. As a matter of fact, he's adding on the fleet beacon right now, but there is no way that this third Nexus will stay alive. Once again, there's enough Corruptors right now available as well to continuously one-shot these units. One decent storm going down, hurting a lot of those roaches and hydras, but the base is already gone, and that means that all of a sudden, Cham is the one once again in control of this match. Now he's getting a little bit greedy. Wants to get himself another Nexus as well, trying to puke it down. But while this is all going on, right, we see the hydras, as well as those lurkers, trying to move forward. And actually, now with the Void Rays out of Prismatic Alignment and Prismatic Alignment on cooldown, the Corruptors got quite a few kills there as well. Now, I'm just curious what this game looked like if ShoWTimE, to that first little bit of aggression, only lost those 3 probes that he seemed to lose initially. Imagine that, right? He would have had such a big army. And I feel like this follow-up push would have, you know, really not been that strong here for Cham. Obviously, you know, StarCraft in hindsight is always an easy game to play. You don't really want to play StarCraft in hindsight. But there's no denying that this is still a rough position here for our Protoss player. He's been trying to make the best of it. He's killed a lot of damage in turn as well, but his tech has just been slowed down so much. That's a lot of lurkers, by the way, though. How many lurkers is that? 21 lurkers? Oh, man. How many phoenixes remain? 0? Yep. Not a lot of phoenixes. He does have Immortals and Storm, though, and Storm and Immortals always a good match in heaven. Like, this is what you want. This is basically what you want. Oh, gotta be careful. These lurkers, man, they are such big numbers right now that half of them can be uprooted and still stay alive. The question is ShoWTimE gonna be able to push this back? He's going for Tempest. Revelation has been used on a lot of those units. As long as he can pick up some of those lurkers from a distance, he's gonna be in a great spot. Very impressive game here, by the way, from Cham. The way that he's handling this is really sick, because while this is going on, he's expanding towards the bottom right as well as the left-hand side as well. ShoWTimE, though, still has a lot of army supply. He's still using those oracles from earlier so very nicely, right? Revelation on all of those units, it allows him to pick up all of those lurkers from a distance as well. And now that the majority of those corruptors are gone as well, the storms not being used too greedily, I suppose, they're still going to be able to eventually pick this all up. There you go. Once again, a storm ready to deal some damage. More Tempests are being produced. He almost needs another Oracle. Does he have another Oracle? By the way, base here on the left-hand side will end up going down. More Corruptors, though, were produced, and this is where things become very difficult. The Storms are being eaten for breakfast. Not really what you want, but now that all of those Protoss air units are gone, it is this ground army that is forced to deal with 20 or so lurkers. Or 17. That's a lot, man. With good storms, though, there's potentially a chance, but ShoWTimE hasn't been able to produce. He hasn't been able to produce any more of those units. Well, here we go. He is going to try and jump it. Storm is going down everywhere. We see a lot of the lurkers still falling immediately. Is there going to be enough right now for our Protoss player to stay alive? Great storms will be able to connect with the majority of not only the lurkers, but also those Corruptors. ShoWTimE decided to pull out just barely in the nick of time. He doesn't have detection. He needs detection. There's that one photon cannon in the back, but there's no observers and no more oracles, and that means indeed that ShoWTimE is the one who is forced to GG out. Excellent game. That was really cool. That push to the center of the map, while it initially really didn't seem to deal any damage, all of a sudden it killed like a full base and a half worth of probes, and that was what allowed Cham to build out his victory. And even though ShoWTimE tried his very, very best to get back into the swing of things, right, dealing so much damage with those phoenixes, the end result, the tech and the army that Cham had, was just a little bit too big. I hope you enjoyed watching this game. If you did, make sure you hit that like button down below. And if you want to see more, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you get a notification as soon as I upload more. A special shout out to the Patreon supporters. You guys are awesome. Thank you very much for all of your generosity. But for now, I want to thank you for watching. Have an amazing day. Do not forget to smile, alright? And I'll see you once again in the next one.